My name's Colin Moffat and I'm Head of Science for Marine Scotland. Marine waters are, in fact, very extensive for Scotland. The sea area that we cover is about 6 times the land area. It equates to round about 470,000 square kilometres. I think that we are all aware that over history people have gone to the sea for an opportunity of improving their health. But I think in terms of what it brings us fish as a food product. It brings us shellfish, and we have some of the best fish and shellfish in the world in our waters. But in addition to the wild fish and shellfish, we have the aquaculture where we are farming our fish. The sea brings us energy through the oil and gas industry, a very significant industry for Scotland. And now, more recently, the renewable energy industry, whether it be wind, wave or tidal. I think also in terms of recreation, we all go to the beach and play in the sand and enjoy the ice cream and paddling and stuff like that. We are 5 degrees C warmer for our latitude because of the warm waters that come across the Atlantic. It also absorbs a lot of the carbon dioxide that we produce. And finally, it produces a lot of oxygen. You don't need to go to the barrier reef to see some of the most fantastic plants and animals. Most of us look out over the sea and what we observe is just the surface. But under the surface, we have some of the most species-rich waters anywhere in the world. The North Sea is one of the most productive areas. And so it has huge species richness, huge habitat richness, lots of colours, lots of diversity, and that's really what we should be appreciating in terms of our coastal waters. One of the things that Scotland is very fortunate in having are our sea lochs, or fjordic lochs, carved out many, many years ago by glaciers. They're a very specific characteristic which within the UK are actually quite unique to Scotland. And these are often characterised by sort of being U-shaped and often having a sill at the end between the fresh water and the marine waters. What this means is that we have very, very specific characteristics within these sea lochs in terms of being a home for some of the very unique species that exist within these waters, some of our shellfish species, some of our sea pens, some of the sponges and other plants and animals that exist within these environments. But of course they're also a source of food for our bird life, both our coastal bird life and ultimately our more offshore bird life. And they provide an excellent environment for our aquaculture industry. I'm very passionate about ensuring that our marine environment is indeed clean, healthy, safe and biologically diverse. In terms of it being clean and safe, we have seen considerable improvements in the state of our seas. We've seen contaminant levels diminish. We've seen regulation being effective. We are celebrating the 5p plastic bag charge. One of the reasons that we want to introduce that is because marine litter is a significant issue, which is human produced. And the only way we can stop that is by changing the culture of the people of Scotland. To do that, we have to provide them with the evidence, and that evidence comes from the fact that 80% of marine litter comes from us dumping our litter. So we have to persuade people not to use plastic bags. We need to limit people, if possible, using facial scrubs that contain microbeads, because the problem of the future are the microplastics. As far as being healthy and biologically diverse, I think what we should be aware of is that we do have some very great animals and plants within our seas. Some of them are in a reasonably good state. An example would be some of our porpoises, our dolphin populations. Contrast that a wee bit with our seals, where we've seen some slight diminution in populations. Clearly, in terms of commercial fish species, we are aware that they have gone down, but we are beginning to see that trend reversing. Skates and rays are not in a particularly good place at the moment. So it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of our species. In terms of our habitats, our rocky habitats are generally in a good state. Contrast this a wee bit with our sandy habitats, where we see a wee bit more problem, partly as a result of fishing activity, but partly also because we are making greater use of our coastal and offshore waters. Key challenges for the marine environment. The first one I would say is climate change. We have an environment which we know is warming. The surface waters are warming. The rate of warming is variable, but it is an upward trend. And the effect of that will variously impact on the species and habitats in our waters. Another challenge for us is associated with the increased atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide, and that is ocean acidification. We have seen a slight reduction in the pH of our marine waters, and that has an implication for especially our calcifying organisms. A third challenge is, of course, the general level of human activity within the marine environment, be it fishing activity, be it the potential implication of renewables, be it the movement of our oil and gas industry to deeper waters, waters where we historically know very, very little. In terms of what we're doing to try and address these problems, the first and one of the most important things is we are generating and maintaining long-term time series, measured very simply by measuring the speed of water, measuring the nutrient concentration and the temperatures that are absolutely fundamental. We must be able to detect any changes with a good degree of certainty if we're going to try and do anything about them. And we can only do that by having long-term time series. In Scotland, we have one of the longest time series anywhere in the world. We started it in 1893 and we're still going today. And that is informing climate change scenarios. The second thing we're doing is we are introducing marine planning. And we hope to be able to manage human activities such that the impact that we have is minimal. The third thing is through marine protected areas. Throughout our waters, we are developing a significant number of marine protected areas. The fourth thing we're doing is we are focusing on areas where we know there will be changes. So we are beginning to focus more on our deeper waters. That's enhanced by technology. And we can now take high-definition television pictures in terms of the deep water. What this means, we are discovering new species. Literally, we discovered 4 species new to science last year. Only 4 or 5 weeks ago, we discovered a massive new sponge bed. We can show pictures, we can show the wonderful colours, we can show the wonderful shapes that exist within our marine environment. If you ever get a chance, you should come up to the Marine Laboratory and we'll show you some of our phytoplankton pictures. They're just incredible.